Hey everyone, welcome back to the workshop. Artisan Pirate here, and in today's fun scroll saw project video, I have a very cool and creative design for Shark Week. Now Shark Week is fast approaching here in 2025. As a matter of fact, it starts this Sunday on the Discovery Channel, Sunday, July 20th, which is really cool because July 23rd is my actual birthday. I am a summer baby, so really cool. I've already got the pattern printed out, prepped, and attached to our material with clear packing tape, and it's one of Steve Good's older designs, so please keep that in mind. And it's going to depict a little shark diorama, so really cool. All of the material here is in my hand. As I said, the pattern has already been prepped and attached to the material, so really neat. It comprises of several parts, and we'll keep all of them together to make sure we assemble the piece properly and make a beautiful shark diorama for Shark Week. But I'm going to hold the pattern up here in front of the camera. You can see the main frame of the shark here. It calls for 1/4 inch material, and you can see it is going to be a slotted and tab design to where it will go into the base. So we'll take careful measurements when making the slots to accept the tabs for the pieces when we go to the assembly process. Then it's going to have two sides that we are going to stack cut, and this is a little thicker than 1/4 inch material, I believe. All the material here was scrap material except the base that was given to me, I believe, by my buddy Jerry Meismer, who wood turns the wooden cowboy hats. If you guys have seen him in previous retrospective videos at the Klingspor store events and everything. But these were pieces that he had on hand, and I think he wasn't going to be able to use them for future projects, and he passed them along to me. So thank you for those, buddy. We're going to have two pieces here that's going to go on the base as well. Some nice coral and aquatic sea life here, some plants and everything to really jazz the diorama up. And then we're going to have the base itself, and you can see the three slots there that are going to accept the tabs on the scroll work we cut out. And it calls for 1/4 inch material here, Steve Good does in the pattern pack, but I've opted to bulk it up to almost 3/4 inches in thickness. I always like to make the base thicker and more bulky. That way it'll be sturdy when you set it on a shelf desk or countertop, and it won't wobble around, and I think it just adds a nice look to it. And as I said, we are going to be stack cutting the two sides of the shark that give it a nice 3D effect once everything is assembled. And Steve Good always goes above and beyond in the pattern packs that he offers over on his website, and you can see that he actually drew out both pieces that you need, but because I'm stack cutting, I only needed to cut out one to attach to our two pieces here with clear packing tape. So really cool. I'm always excited for Shark Week. It's one of my favorite weeks in television over on the Discovery Channel. I'll usually have all the TVs dialed into it just to see the shark-centric episodes that come out every year. So really cool. And as my shirt says, we're going to live every week like it is Shark Week, and we're going to move the camera and drill all the pilot holes so we can head over to the scroll saw and start making this beautiful and creative shark design for Shark Week 2025. And before drilling our pilot holes over here on the workbench, I am redrawing the proper size to cut the slots to accept the tabs once all of the scroll saw work is complete. But then we will drill out the few pilot holes that this project has with our Seiko scrollers drill and a small drill bit. And after all the pilot holes are drilled, we will head over to the scroll saw and start scrolling. For all of the scroll saw work on this project, I'll be using a number 5 Ultra reverse tooth blade, and it will cut through all pieces of our material exceptionally well with minimal chip out. Here I am working on the gills on the shark, and this is the 2 stack cut pieces, and this is the only stack cutting we will do on the entire project. But now we are cutting out the eye here, and now we will begin working on the base. And I'll have a scrap piece of the same material we are scrolling out set aside to quickly test the fit of all of the slots before changing out and cutting out the next slot and proceeding on. If you guys would like to try this pattern, it's available as a free pattern download over at Steve Good's scrollsawworkshop.blogspot.com website over in his free pattern catalog. Now that all of these slots have been cut out, we will begin releasing the pieces. Again, not very many internal cuts on this beautiful shark diorama we are working on. Cutting out the base here, which is a nice oval design. But then we will switch over to cutting out the 2 stack cut pieces again. And as always, I'm taking my time and letting the blade do the work. If you guys like what you're seeing, I would highly encourage you to subscribe to my channel and also follow me across all my social media feeds under the Artisan Pirate name. I'd really appreciate the support. And now we are doing the final bit of scroll saw work, cutting out the silhouette side of the shark. The two sides we stack cut will be glued to this piece here to give it a nice three-dimensional effect with the diorama. But now over here on the workbench we can remove all the pieces from the waste wood, and we'll get our first visual glimpse of what the finished project will look like. Only took around 25 minutes for all of the scroll saw work for this project. But now we will head over to sanding with 180 grit clean spore woodworking shop sandpaper and the vibrating palm sander. And I'm carefully sanding with small circular motions here. And when I get to the base, the part of the base that I opted to have the top side, I give it a slight round over with the palm sander here. But then it was time to do the first bit of assembly with medium grade CA glue and activator. And the CA glue basically dries and bonds instantly, but I still like to set pieces aside for around 5 minutes to make sure the pieces completely dry and cure before proceeding on. But after these pieces have dried, I will go to add a splash of color with 2 different shades of Minwax wood stain. I'll add a lighter shade to the shark itself that still allows the natural grains and textures of the material we use to shine through, and the base with the sea life on it, the coral and everything, we went with a darker shade of Minwax wood stain. But after everything was stained, I wiped off all of the excess with some paper towels and set everything aside to dry. And while everything was drying, I decided to show you guys one of my favorite places to go to when I am in Myrtle Beach. This is in the downtown area at the historic Gay Dolphin Gift Cove, the largest gift shop on the East Coast. And this is the Shark Man, who puts shark's teeth on necklaces for you if you bring them by. But it's always worth a visit if you are in the area. But now we are doing the final assembly with more CA glue and activator. And after that had completely dried and cured, it was time to give it a finish. And for finishing, I gave it a few coats of Rust-Oleum clear gloss to really give it a nice glossy appearance, give it protection for years to come, and to make the grain pop. And when it dried, the project was complete. And here we have the completed miniature shark diorama, cut out completely over on the scroll saw from start to finish, out of material that was pretty much free, essentially, with the exception of the base, which came out of the scrap bin. As I said at the beginning of the video, all of the material that makes up the scroll saw work was given to me by my buddy and good friend Jerry Meismer. So really cool. Everything here was cut out completely from start to finish over on the scroll saw, and it all came together beautifully with some nice three-dimensional elements to make up the beautiful shark diorama just in time for Shark Week 2025, which starts this Sunday, July 20th on the Discovery Channel. Thank you, Steve Good, for another fantastic design from your pattern catalog. Once again, it's one of his older pattern offerings in case you guys would like to go and download it and try it out in your garage or workshops. It is a pattern that can be found by just searching the word shark in his pattern catalog. I just typed shark in and a few shark designs came up, including a Shark Week design that I have done in a previous scroll saw project video over here on the platform. This is also a Steve Good design. But I'm really happy with how this project finished up. It only took me around 25 minutes to scroll everything out. It's not an overly complex design. It's just with the nature of it being a tabbed, slotted, and somewhat layered design, you need to, of course, take your time and let the blade do the work and be as loyal as you can be to the cut line, and everything should come out nice and crisp as it has in today's video. But I really like the 3D elements with the two sides of the shark there. It kind of gives the fins a nice three-dimensional look, like he is actually swimming through the aquatic world of the vast oceans that are in the big wide world we live in. And then I love love the added touch of the coral on the front and then the aquatic plant life on the seabed on the back of it. So it really looks and simulates the shark going through his aquatic environment as he goes about his or her day-to-day life. Of course, you guys know I'm a huge fan of the Jaws movie, and I finished this in a standard rustic finishing way like I like to do over here on the platform. The shark, which is the standout feature for the project, I finished with a very light Minwax wood stain that still allows the natural grains and textures of the material we used to shine through. And then the base and the aquatic plant life, I opted for a two-toned appearance with a splash of darker Minwax wood stain to hopefully give the project a nice pop of two-toned color. Now, I finished this with a standard rustic finishing way, as I just said, but of course with a project like this you could really jazz it up and make it even more lifelike by going above and beyond and going in and using acrylic craft paints or spray paints and paint everything up to look like it is out in the big wide tropical world of the oceans and everything. You could of course spray paint the shark gray. You could put some white in it if you wanted it to be a great white shark. You could do the coral, a nice coral color, you know, a tropical pink color or something, some nice greens and blues for the base or something like that, and really jazz it up. And if you are uncomfortable, because this project is very simplistic in nature with the exception of it being a layered and slotted and tab design, and you did not feel comfortable doing the small internal cuts that make up the eye and the gills there on the two sides there, you could of course not cut those out if you were going to go in with paints and paint those details in if you were uncomfortable cutting out those small internal cuts, if you were just say getting into scroll saw woodworking. But you can see on the base there how we went in on the time-lapse portion and redrew the cut line to the proper thickness of the dimensions of the material we used. Again, it's pretty much upcycled material here, but everything came out nice and crisp. And then I finished everything with Rust-Oleum clear gloss there at the end, and it really gives everything a very nice glossy appearance and really gives it a nice reflective view of the glossy clear coat in the lights of the workshop. But really, really cool. Again, Steve Good called for entirely 1/4 inch material throughout the project. I just personally opted to bulk up the base to where it'll be a little bit more sturdy and have a little bit more weight to where it will not teeter-totter on a shelf, desk, or countertop. But now it is proudly ready to be displayed for Shark Week 2025 as it will approach this Sunday, and I can sit in the cool air conditioned of the house and watch all the TVs dialed in to the iconic week of television that I look forward to year after year. Again, my shirt says live every week like it is Shark Week. Of course, I love all of the shark movies, the shark documentaries, the shark conservation efforts that go out in the ocean, you know, to preserve these beautiful and majestic creatures. I've seen the beautiful hammerhead sharks in the Ripley's Aquarium down at Myrtle Beach, South Carolina when we've been on the family vacation, and they are beautiful and massive creatures. You do not really think how big these sharks can get when you see them on TV, of course with Jaws, you know, the massive shark. But then, you know, when you actually get to see them in an aquarium environment, excuse me, you know, you can really appreciate the beauty and the massive size and the power that these majestic creatures have out in the ocean. For different ways to use this pattern, I feel like if you just wanted to have a shark silhouette, you could of course cut off that base there and just have the shark itself if you wanted to decorate that with some tropical or beach themed stuff. Also, if you did not want to add maybe the coral and the plant life on the front and back, you could leave those out and you could put maybe a name at the base here, you know, maybe the name of a shark. If you're a teacher or something, you could use it for teaching purposes or things like that. And you could even still cut out a name here at the base and put it, you know, like great white shark or mako shark or bull shark or whatever species of shark you want this to be depicted up here in the beautiful scroll saw work. But as I always say, there's options and versatility for each and every scroll saw woodworking project and pattern you come across. But I had a lot of fun bringing this project to life for you guys visually over here on the platform, and I hope you liked the video from beginning all the way until now where we are closing it. And I hope in some way, shape, or form you picked up a tip, trick, or tidbit to use out in your garage or workshop when making a project like this or making a project in a similar manner, a miniature diorama that is maybe layered or has slots and tabs, and just the way I go about bringing the projects to life over here on the platform. But thank you all for following along. I hope you all are looking forward to Shark Week 2025. Of course, you can tell that I am. I look forward to that week of television each and every year. And again, Shark Week 2025 is right around the corner. Eagerly anticipating that week of television. And again, it falls on my birthday this year, you know, right in the middle of the week. So really cool. Get to see Shark Week on Sunday all the way through my birthday. So a really cool added birthday treat here in 2025. But that's going to be about all for this one. If you're new to the channel, hopefully you'll click that subscribe button and also follow me across all my social media feeds under the Artisan Pirate name. As always, links to contact me as well as all my social media feeds will always be linked down in the description box below these videos. That's about all for this one. And remember guys, if I can make it or do it, so can you guys. I'm the Artisan Pirate. Take care. Happy Shark Week, and I'll see you guys real soon.